I have been waiting a long time to try this whiskey, and I am super excited to pop this top with you guys today. Let's get into it. Hey everybody, and thank you so much for joining me today here on Blind Whiskey Reviews. We just got finished with our Distillery Wars shootout, and if you didn't get the opportunity to check that out, I have an entire playlist with a ton of videos in it. You can catch the whole thing. It'll be linked up here and down in the description below if you'd like to check that out. But because of that, it's been quite a while since we've been able to crack the top on a whiskey, and I am really excited to get into this one today. I have been waiting a long time to get into this bottle, and it took me quite a while to get. This bottle got released several months ago, and I just was never able to get my hands on one. So I finally got my hands on a bottle. It took me going to the state of Louisiana to get it, but I brought one back with me, and I'm super excited to get into it. Baker's, I've always thought, is a really solid pour. I really enjoyed the small batch version, and I'm really curious to kind of see what they've done with the single barrel offering with it now, and to find out if it's kind of worth them upping the price a little bit on it. So this, as always, is a 7-year age-stated 107 proof whiskey, which are both the same as the old offering used to be. The only difference being is that this one is a single barrel. And one cool thing that they've added to these that they didn't have on the old bottling was that they did put a barrel age on it. So like I said, it's an age stated 7 years, but on the neck it says it's 8 years, 3 months. So we're getting an extra 15 months of age than is stated on the label, which is cool. And it's awesome that they put that on there. So I'm really excited about that. For you guys that don't know, Baker's is an expression from Jim Beam, and it is based on a recipe or a concoction by Baker Beam. And Baker Beam is the cousin of Booker Beam. And both of them came up and grew up through the Jim Beam distillery. You know, Booker got the notoriety, kind of got the popularity, and took over as the master distiller at Jim Beam. But Baker was there behind the scenes working as head distiller at least one, I think, the Claremont plant, and in several others. So he was definitely heavily involved with the Jim Beam distillery, and this whiskey is his namesake. So really excited to get into this one. Like I said, I've always enjoyed Baker's. I've done 2 reviews of Baker's. One of them was of a bad bottle. Actually, I'll link both those reviews up here too if you want to check them out. Actually, I'll link both of them, but only one of them is of a good whiskey. One of those bottles, if you guys have followed the channel for quite a while, because it was a really early review, but one of those bottles was absolute trash. It was bad. Like, I mean, the bottle was just off. So I re-reviewed it, and actually I had reached out to Jim Beam, and I'm always going to say this every opportunity to get. I reached out to Jim Beam, I told them what happened, and they were super accommodating, super cool, very customer service forward, and they actually refunded me the money for the bottle so I could go buy another one, which I did and re-reviewed, and it was fantastic. So definitely big props to Jim Beam for standing behind their product. But let's get into this bottle. Now, appearance-wise, this bottle is much better looking, in my opinion, than the other one. The other one was kind of like that wine-style bottle with wax over the top. I mean, it was a decent bottle, but this one has a nicer presentation. I kind of like the oversized cork, although it doesn't feel heavy. It feels like cheap plastic, so we'll see how that is when we get it off. But let's pop this cork. Weak pop, synthetic cork. Yeah, and this top isn't too heavy. I wish it was a little heftier, but what are you going to do? Nice aroma just coming straight off the bottle here. Let's pour ourselves a little bit of whiskey. And don't get me wrong, I am not trashing synthetic corks. I kind of like them. I think they do a better job than your standard, actual corks. I think they do a better job of sealing the bottle and keeping the oxygen out. Real cork breathes, and I think that kind of affects your whiskey over time more than the synthetic corks does. So I actually do like synthetic corks in the bottles. This one felt a touch loose, but when they do get them nice and snug in there, they work really well. So let's get into the nose. I mean, right off the top, the nose smells really good. Nice, rich characters. Some nice brown sugar. Sweet caramel, some oak. It all smells pretty deep and dark. Touch of like a berry character, some of that dark fruit. A little bit of heat there. To be expected at 107 proof. Nice, like, deep amber color. Smells really good. So I'm excited to get into this pour. Let's get our first taste in. Cheers. Obviously, this is the first time over the palate. I definitely want to get another taste, let my palate kind of get acclimated to this whiskey. The first thing I did get was kind of some of that nutty character you typically get from Jim Beam. It's blended with some nice, dark, rich, sweet characters, though, too. It's not, some of the Jim Beam whiskeys, like with Knob Creek a little bit more. Even though Knob Creek is probably close to the age of this, but you can definitely, with Knob Creek, it's a little bit more punchy. This is a little bit more mellowed out, a little bit more deep, dark, sweet. Tastes nice, but let's get a second taste in so I can give you some more of these flavor notes. All right, got a little bit of light fruit up front. It quickly kind of switches into some darker characters. Kind of like a little bit of a juicy red apple with kind of like a little bit of a bitter twist. Almost like when you take a bite of like a red delicious apple and you get that skin's kind of bitterish. It kind of mixes with the sweetness of the apple. It's kind of like that. There's definitely some dark fruit characters there. As it goes over to the middle of the palate, you kind of switch into those. You get a little bit of the heat from the whiskey. You get a little bit of those darker characters, the dark brown sugar, some kind of like toasted caramel. Towards the back, there's definitely some oak here as it transitions to the back of the palate, but let me get another taste. Yeah, lots of caramel here, like burnt caramel, and not in a bad way. Just kind of has that like charry character to it, I'm sure, coming from the oak, kind of blended with that caramel flavor. Kind of kicks in mid-palate. It's actually finishing a lot. From the mid-palate on, it's not quite as sweet as it was up front, and it's not quite as sweet as it was in the first couple tastes. The sweetness is kind of backed off a little bit. There's quite a bit of like tannic bitterness here. Like I said, there's some oak character, some vanilla, some of that oaky char. Definitely some of that nutty character across the middle of the palate too. So far so good. I definitely feel like it wants to open up quite a bit here. It needs to get some airtime. So as we always do in these No Time Like They're Present reviews, you gotta give the whiskey the opportunity to open up a little bit. This is just our initial review of this whiskey when the bottle's first opened. The blind review is coming down the line, so definitely keep your eyes out for that one. But we're gonna give this about 20 or 30 minutes in the glass, give it just a little opportunity to open up and kind of give us an indication of what this whiskey's gonna taste like with a little bit of airtime. So I'm gonna let it sit and I'll be right back to you with a few more notes. All right, so the whiskey has been in the glass right about 25 minutes. Let's see how it's opened up. Nose hasn't changed too much. There's maybe almost like a little bit more of like a bitter chocolatey character on the nose. Let's get in the taste. Yeah, it definitely tastes a little bit different than the last taste I had before we left. So lots more sweetness here, which is good. At the end of what I was tasting before, the last taste I had, I mean, it's just gotten really flat in terms of the sweetness. It was ending really bitter. Now it's really nicely balanced. So I think that little bit of airtime did it some good. Yeah, that's a lot better than it was tasting, like I said, the tail end. Nice sweetness there. A lot of the same characters that we were tasting before. Just really well balanced out, but more balanced out with the sweet characters. It's not finishing so oaky and bitter. That's a little bit there. It's cutting the sweetness a little bit, but there's just a nice, consistent sweetness the entire way across the palate, which is really nice. Just a nice, solid, for 107 proof, it drinks very easy, very smooth, which is everyone's favorite term to describe whiskey. It's just a very smooth drink, though. I mean, it just doesn't have harsh, bitey edges. It's got nice, rounded corners. It's got a nice amount of heat, but it doesn't. There's none of that sharp bite on your tongue. I think that's really coming from the 8 years, 3 months that's on this whiskey. I think the age really kind of helps take off the edges of some of these characters and take the edges off that alcohol, and really just makes it a nice, enjoyable, smooth drink. Now, is it knocking my socks off? Not quite yet, and I do think maybe a little bit more airtime is going to help it more. I mean, if it's any indication of how it changed from 25 minutes ago till now, it's definitely heading in the right direction. It's definitely good whiskey. It's very solid. I have high hopes for it. Baker's was never a mind blower for me, though. I always really enjoyed Baker's, and I thought it was just such a solid pour, but it was never a mind-blowing pour, and especially for the price that it goes for, I don't know that it necessarily lives up to that price. I mean, this whiskey I paid $55 for, and it goes in that $55 to $60 range, and the old version of Baker's was going in that $50 to $60 range, and I just think that that was very overpriced. I was actually able to stock up on quite a bit of the old bottles of Baker's before they got rid of it, because they were blowing it out at Costco for $29.99. So I definitely grabbed quite a few of those to hang on to and to open up. We will definitely be breaking open one of those bottles. I'll be doing it soon, so that way they've both been opened at the same time, and then we can do a side-by-side comparison, because why wouldn't we do that? We got to do that. So I will be breaking open a bottle. I won't do it on the channel probably because I've already reviewed it a couple of times, but I'll break up a bottle of Baker's open soon. That way we can compare these two in the next few weeks and see how they taste side by side, see which version's better. We got to do it. Other people have done it, but we got to do it too, right? Do a blind side by side. So that'll definitely be coming. Keep your eyes peeled for that. As it sits right now, my score for this initially, I think it's good. I just don't think it's mind-blowing. I'm going to give it an 80. I'm going to give it an 87. I think it's on the high side of good. I think it's very solid, very drinkable, but for the price, I'm a little bit disappointed. I was hoping it would give me a little bit more complexity maybe. There's some nice flavors here. It's very Jim Beam. It's very Baker's. I mean, it still kind of has those same Baker's characters, maybe with a little twist on it, but it's just not, it's not knocking my socks off, especially not for a $55 price point. When I can get Elijah Craig Barrel Proof for around the same price, which is kind of my benchmark for a lot of stuff, I gotta say that it's just not living up to that price point yet. But we're gonna do the blind review after a few weeks and a few more pours. I will pour this into a sample bottle after it's had some time to open up, so we can do the blind review with an aged sample to kind of see how it is, and we'll definitely give you that blind review so you know my honest and unbiased opinion about this whiskey. So we'll be getting to that hopefully soon. Definitely let me know what you think about the new version, the single barrel version of Baker's, in the comments down below. And if you had the opportunity to try them both side by side, definitely let me know which one you preferred. That side by side video will be coming soon. As always, you can catch me on Instagram and Twitter at blind_reviews. You can also catch me on Instagram at Mission Bottle Kill, and you can send me an email at blindwhiskeyreviews@gmail.com. And until next time, cheers.